goes on to say, you haven't yet resisted. You haven't yet fought against sin until you've begun to physically bleed. You haven't yet become physically beaten in order to carry a gospel. That's what he was telling the church at the Hebrews. He said, you got nothing to say. He said, I know you've been through stuff, but look away from everything that distracts. Look away from your trial. Look away from your pain. Look away from the lies. Look away from the hurts. Look away from the deception and look unto Jesus, the author and the finisher of your faith. Look back into his face and say, you are worth it. You are worth it. I close with this. The English word for worship comes from two words, worth or worthy, and the second part, ship. To worship God is to declare that God is worth it. It is to put value on God. It is to say, I see this over here, this problem, this situation, it's hurt me, it's tore me up. But I will not put my full attention here, because wherever I'm putting my full attention, that's what I'm giving worth and value to. So I will keep you in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on his troubles. Then why are some of you so marveling that you don't have peace when all your mind is always on your problems? All you keep thinking about is your bills. All you keep replaying is what they said and how wrong it was and how this wasn't right and why did it have to go like this and how come I had to go through all of that. He said, now, if I'm worth it, I'm not trying to tell you that didn't happen. I'm not calling it a figment of your imagination. I'm not saying it's an elaborate 3D hologram. What I am saying is what I said to John. John was standing there and he heard a voice behind him and he turned to look at the voice. His eyes were like fire, his hair was like wool, his face shined like the sun, and his feet were fine brass that had been burned in a furnace. In other words, what God is saying is, you've been looking at the problem, you've been looking at what they've said, but now turn and look at me. Say that I am worth it. And how you demonstrate that I am worth it is by placing your mind on me. It's by saying what the apostles said. The Bible said that when they were whipped, they didn't go away murmuring and grumbling and complaining. Historically, it is said, if you've ever read Fox's Book of Martyrs, it is said that Peter was up for crucifixion, and the apostles and the rest of the people knew it, and they were trying to get him out of the city. And it is said historically that he was walking out of the city. He saw Jesus walking into the city. Knowing who he was, because he had been with him for 3.5 years, he said, my Lord, where do you go? Jesus told him, I go to be crucified. And he turned back around, walked back into the city, was captured, and as they got ready to crucify him, he looked at them and said, I am not worthy to die as my Lord. Crucify me upside down. Friend, it's recorded that when the early Christians would get into the cages, would stand before lions, that the reason why the Roman Empire couldn't handle them, as great and as powerful as Rome was, the reason why Rome couldn't deal with the Christians, because while they were there watching their own children, what dull knives put to their skins, peeled off the child's skin one layer at a time as the child was screaming. It is recorded that these Christians would start to sing unto the Lord with tears coming down their eyes, and they would hear them say, God lost his son, it's only fair that I lose mine. Can anybody tell God in this house, you're worth it? You're worth every bit of tears. You're worth my shame. You're worth my humiliation. You're worth my pain. You're worth my frustration. You're worth it. You're worth it. You're worth it. No, God, I don't understand everything. No, if I could choose, this isn't the path I would have chosen. No, if it was up to me, we would have written this story a different way. It would have had a different ending. But in that you've chosen this for me, I glorify you. And I love you. I worship you. This is why God can expect you to be faithful to the house of God. This is why God can expect you to press your way when you're tired in your body. This is why God can look at you and say, even though you've had a long, hard day, bless me. Because I'm still God. And I'm still worthy. Even though people told you off today, even though someone may have cut you off in traffic, even though you may have gotten a hard time at school or on the job, yet when you come out from there, worship me and love me and declare, I am worth it. I recently preached at a conference of Because of the Times, very well-known UPC conference. People go, oh, how'd you get there? You're not UPC. Because God was shutting this other door. He was shutting this other door I was just telling you about with the presiding bishop. He shut that door and then began to open this door. See, everybody wants this anointing and wants power. Nobody wants pain. Everybody wants all this greatness from God. They want gifts. They want gain. They want authority. They want souls. They want miracles. They want to lay hands on cancers. Nobody wants to cry. Nobody wants to suffer. Nobody wants to struggle. Nobody wants to do what Isaiah did. Said, what of the night? What of the night? The night seems so long. No, everybody wants to grow up with a perfect household. Nobody wants to grow up without a father. Nobody wants to have difficulty without having a parent. Everybody wants to just have everything just right and expect God just to heap. May I tell you why God doesn't allow everything to be just right? I'm just going to give you just a few reasons. One, let me tell you, because this world is not your home. And if everything was just right, you get a little bit too comfortable here. But when things start to mess up, you can hear the words of Abraham. I'm looking for a city whose builder and maker. I'm looking for a city with foundations whose builder and maker is God. Tell 3 people in this house, he's worth it. Tell them God's worth it to me. God's worth it. Jeez. He's worth it. Tired in my body, frustrated, long days. Oh, we've all had them. He's not trying to act like it didn't happen to you. He just wants to know one thing. One thing. One thing. One thing. One thing. Am I worth it to you? Am I worth it? You know, God will let some crazy stuff happen sometimes in your life. Crazy stuff. Sometimes you think that the devil's got to be on crack. He's just got to be. Because crack is whack and he's crazy. Just gotta be. Walk in and out of airports and sometimes some of the crazy stuff God will just let happen to you. And all he wants to know when it's all over, said and done, do you love me? Is there anybody that will lift their hands to the Lord in this house and say, I love you? Tonight, this is a time of commitment. It's a time where you may be tired in your body, and we understand that, but it's a time that God's calling on you to press beyond your tiredness as he watches you press beyond tiredness to do all the other things you do. When you're tired, you still go to work. You're tired, you still take care of your business and pay bills.